Okay, she's cool. Wow, I can't believe it's episode 3 of Two Fans in a Pod. Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 of Two Fans in a Pod with your co-hosts, myself, Osazema Osagai, and
Rexakere.
how you doing, my bro? How's your? I know we've been away for a month. How are you recovering from your illness? How's it going? How you doing?
It's going not the best, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Because of still.
What have you been up to? I can't hear. What's...
Hello.
Oh, that's better. Yeah. I don't know what's going on there. I couldn't
My
hear.
settings changed. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
My bad. Yeah, saying how you doing? How's the last few weeks? We've been up for a month. It seems like it's been such a while since we've seen and been together for the call.
Yeah.
For the podcast.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, but hopefully I'm back. I'm back for good. I can actually focus on creating videos. And
That's good, man.
And obviously finding a job as well.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, of course.
Get into that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, cool. That's all good, man. That's all good. Good to stay in your hustle, stay busy. I mean, after a month off, we're back.
Yeah.
We're back like Aubameyang. We're back to the English football like Aubameyang. This evening, with a very special Women in Football episode. We've got, on today's podcast, we've got a lady who has worked with the England national football teams at St. George's Park, top tennis players in the world, as well as many British athletes. She's an experienced sports and performance psychology professional who has supported elite sport programs and individuals who are wanting to develop their mindset and performance. Without further ado, let's welcome Chantal Duarte to the podcast.
Hello.
Hey.
Good evening.
Good evening. How
are you? Yeah, how are you?
It's good. I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while. I feel like it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Because I met from university, from me speaking to you during my final year. So
I remember your dissertation and everything.
For my multi-platform project and getting everything together at the time, it was like a stressful time, but to get everything together, it just worked out so well in the end. And I was grateful that our paths met, came across each other, and at that time it was just amazing, to get insights at the time, and it helped. It helped so much. So thank you for that as well. Going back, it was
You're welcome. Anytime. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, you too. How it's been a while. What have you been up to in the last few years, I guess?
Oh, yeah, good question. What have I been up to? I've been everywhere. I've been all over the world. I got a job at the WTA working on the tennis tour, so traveled the corners of the globe, which was great. Set up my own consultancy since then, and just doing a bit of me, really, just working with lots and lots of athletes here, there and everywhere. So it's been good.
Taking in different cultures as well, that's amazing.
Yeah, totally. I've been to Australia, Dubai, China, you know, all over the place, Lyon, random places.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
really cool, really cool.
Yeah, did you learn some languages out there as well?
No, not maybe like a tiny bit,
Yeah.
like hellos and goodbyes, and
Yeah.
you know. But I brushed up on my
Recent.
Spanish a little bit, so yeah, yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, I was wondering because I was always wondering about your. Have you got any like ancestry from elsewhere in the world, or?
I do. My surname, yeah, Duarte. It's well, it's Portuguese, but my dad's Colombian, so yeah.
I said to you at the time. I was wondering. It sounded a bit Spanish, Brazilian. I thought Brazilian.
Yeah, well, yeah, Portuguese, Brazilian, yeah, exactly. So you're bang on.
Oh, nice. So you speak Spanish? A bit of Spanish?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm better at understanding it than actually speaking, but I can get by. So yeah,
nice.
Not too bad.
That's nice. Have you been over there as well?
When I was a really young kid, when I was like 2 or 3, something like that. But I haven't been back since. So yeah, it's on the hit list. Who knows? At some point, maybe I'll re-venture over there where my roots are.
Definitely, you might do some sports psychology out there. You never know.
Who knows? Yeah, maybe.
It's good. Yeah. But welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Two Fans in the Pod.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, it's great to be here.
Yeah, is there something I want to do since university so a long time as well? It's just like, you know, when you finally make something and
yeah. Congrats, it looks great. You know, I've seen the other episodes and yeah, you know, good for you. It's good to follow your passion and do your things. So yeah.
Thank you.
Passion is key. You follow your passion and that's it. That's where.
That's life. That's life. Exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry. I'm just checking my sound. That's my audio. That's for a minute it wasn't working, so just had to sort that out.
Yeah.
Forgive me. Sorry.
Just to clarify, you said you're a Tottenham Hotspur fan. What do you, Chantal?
If I had to pick a team, yeah, maybe.
Okay.
If I had to pick a London team, yeah, I'm quite impartial these days. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, if you had to give me a team,
it's Tottenham.
Yeah, in the women's game, I have to say Leicester because that's who I've been working with. So I can't not. You know what I mean? I have to say Leicester, but obviously
do you know
not.
It hurts a bit because it's Spurs, but I can kind of a little bit have some sympathy because it's the women's team, and you know they're not really.
Who do you support?
Arsenal.
That's fair. That's cool. I'm literally directly between Spurs and Arsenal, so it's one of those like I could fly the red flag, you know, because I'm impartial. If Arsenal were playing a different team, I would want Arsenal to win. For sure. So don't worry, I'm kind of on your team. It's all good.
What about when they're playing each other? Whose side are you on there?
Oh, it's a tough one. That is a tough one. I don't know the answer to that. I'd have to watch to know how I feel. Do you know what I mean? In the moment, I like an underdog. It depends what's going on in the game. Like if another team was absolutely battering the other one, I'd want the underdogs to do a little bit better. Do you know what I mean? I'm always an underdog rooter. So whoever's higher in the table, I'll root for the one that's not. There you go. There's your answer. Your politically correct answer.
Oh wow. It sounds like you just supported North London. Like any North
London. I'm a London girl. Yeah. Any North London team. Yeah, absolutely.
So no love for Chelsea. No love for Chelsea. Then I'm guessing.
Nah, I'm not a huge Chelsea fan, but you know what it is.
Yeah, neither am I. I can't lie to you. I'm not far from.
Who do you support? Is it? I feel like you're a Man U supporter.
Yeah, I'm a Manchester United supporter.
Yeah. Fair.
Staying loyal.
Yeah, fair play.
Stay for it. Oh, yeah. So I'm out. I guess I'm on my own. I'm the only one that's not supporting another team out here.
Yeah, sorry, you're an up northerner. It's okay though.
It's all good. Yeah. Well, yeah, it was always interesting. I find with the seasons, as the seasons go, how different teams have their periods where they're up and down. You know, always going up and down season by season. Yeah, interesting times. But we'll always wanted to get a sports psychologist on. Always wanted to get that insight into the industry and get people that don't really know about the industry to have that insight to get into. That's how I thought when I approached you during my final year. So I didn't know too much. I was always into sports, but like playing sports and watching sports, especially football and tennis, my first two. And it's like I didn't really know too much about sports psychology, but I was hearing a lot about it at the time. And I said, let me into after interviewing a sports psychologist, only right.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, someone in the industry to give me that insight into how it really works, the ins and outs, the things you don't get to see within the sports environment.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
at the time
It is
I
a
learned so
fascinating
much.
place.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating place because I've been blessed to work in, you know, professional sport at the top, and literally, you know, your 7-year-old that's having a tantrum on the pitch, sort of thing. And you know, I've seen, and the teenage years, you know, breaking into the elite side of things. I've been blessed to have had experience in a lot of those areas, so it's fascinating. It's like I love what I do just because it's so interesting to me. So it's a different world behind the scenes compared to what you see in front of the camera, pretty sure.
That's why you can do a documentary on sports psychology.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But let's bring it back to because you talked a bit about your background, your life background. How did it, like your life background, your childhood, and were there any signs that led to you saying like you want to become a sports psychologist? What kind of were you into, your passions, early passions?
Yeah, so for me, I was a tennis player growing up. I was really sporty. I played tennis, football, did karate. You know, I would try anything when I was a kid. And for whatever reason, I went down the tennis route, wanted to be a pro player. And it was when I was playing, you know, I knew the way I spoke to myself and the way I behaved, whether I was smacking my racket on the floor, whether I was bouncing on my toes, it made such a difference to the way I played and my performance. So from a really early age, I thought, okay, wow, there's something to this. The mind is something that, you know, it's a mystical thing that I need to know more. I could see from my own performance, the way I spoke to myself, the way I behaved made a massive difference. So I've been interested in it for a really long time, like since being a kid. So then I went on to uni, went to Loughborough, did a sports science degree because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Well, I actually wanted to be a pro tennis player on the tour, but I had to quit just before uni. So then I thought, okay, right, what else can I do that means I can support athletes? So I did a sports science degree because at that point, even though I really liked sports psychology, it was one of those that I wasn't quite sure what I was supposed to be doing degree wise. So went and did that, played football at uni, had a really great time. So different between an individual and a team sport. And then went through uni and actually came out of it and thought, right, I want to get my hands dirty. I want to support some athletes and some programs. Where can I get my, stuck in basically? And ended up working for a charity called Track Academy for 4 years and managing an education and mentoring program for young people who want to be athletes themselves. So helping them get the grades, get through school, get through uni, but also there was a world-class training program alongside that with Olympians, training them and stuff. So I learned a lot from being there. But something was still kind of itching at me. In the meantime, I'd picked up some athlete liaison stuff. So on the tennis tour, doing some player services roles where you'd help them with things like their hotel, their transport, their prize money, on site, doing stuff for them while they're at the events. So I did that in Nottingham, the China Open, which was pretty cool. Did some stuff at Wimbledon as well. So, but there was still something itching away at me that I need to do the sports psychology thing. Like, this isn't enough. Like, I really want to support athletes from a psychological perspective, not from like a logistical perspective, but I want to know what makes them confident, what makes them tick, how do they survive under pressure, how do they thrive? So I went back into my master's, went to Sheffield Hallam, and then basically trained up to be a practitioner through the BASES route. There are two kind of main routes through BPS or BASES. Went down the BASES path, did my kind of supervised experience. And I've been in the field ever since really. And as a result, worked in so many different places. So I worked for the WTA full time, which was great, on the female pro tennis tour, traveling the world, helping the athletes literally all over the place with their psychology. Worked at the PFA injury rehab program at St George's Park, which was pretty cool. I think I'd met you then. Around that time. And that was when I was basically the performance psychology lead on that program, helping athletes come into the program. They were obviously getting all of the facilities, the hydro suite, all of the chambers and stuff with the physios, with the S&Cs. And I was offering the psychology just to kind of help support them through that process coming back from injury. And these were players, male and female, Premier League all the way down to like conference levels. So professional players from the men's and women's game. So that was a really cool experience for me. Also done some stuff with Leicester City Women, their first team, and their WSL Academy at the moment, which is really cool. And lots of things in talent development. So England netball, England hockey, British athletics, British weightlifting, and the new people coming through, doing some stuff there, and just some other bits on the side, just through my own consultancy. Really, I just decided to set up something called the Confidence Effect. I do all things sports psychology with it, though. It's not just to do with confidence, but thought it was quite a jazzy name. So yeah, I thought, yeah, that sticks. I'll go with that. So yeah, I've been working, one-to-one with clients, doing that from a whole range of sports, and working with some organizations as well amongst that. But we're talking football, tennis, golf, swimming, gymnastics, baton twirling, which was something I didn't actually.
What's that?
Didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like rhythmic gymnastics, if you imagine, like with the ribbons and things, but they have batons, and they do similar things where they have to throw them in the air and do tricks and nice. Jumps and things. Yeah. Really fascinating. But yeah, I've learned a lot from doing my own stuff. So that's kind of me in a nutshell, how my journey kind of came into the world of sports psychology, and here I am, basically.
Just to ask, so was there any person in your life who was very influential in steering in that direction of psychology? Was there anyone in that you came across that kind of put you on that right path to go into where you are now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think quite a few people have influenced me along the way. When I was a kid, and to be honest with you, watching athletes themselves, professional athletes, and just the amount of pressure that, tennis was my sport growing up, watching, the likes of, going to show my age now, the Steffi Grafs of the world, the Arantxa Sanchez Vicarios of the world, when I was a little 8-year-old or whatever, watching them, just absolutely just own it out there and deal with the pressure of playing on TV, all of the Grand Slams and everything that they achieved. I just have such a respect for athletes and how much resiliency, confidence, mental strength that they must have to be able to perform at a level like that. So it was that really sparked it off for me. But in terms of people I've worked with and people along the way, my boss at Track Academy, her name's Connie Henry. She was a Commonwealth triple jumper, and just her approach to her humility, her kindness, her warmth, because she knew there was a need there for these young kids. Like, they were pulling kids off the street, keeping them in school, helping them get grades. Yeah. I just loved that ethos, and it just really aligned with me. So she gave me the confidence to just go for things that I really wanted to do, which then led me going on to studying sports psychology. And the main woman for me would have been my master supervisor. Her name's Dr. Jo Butt. She's up at Liverpool John Moores now as a professor, but literally even before I went in to study with her, she was calling me up, and I was saying, right, how do I make it on, as a practitioner in the field? What do I need to do? She's like, yep, come and do the masters with us. Then she's taken me under her wing ever since, and literally throughout the whole of my journey, she's been there. She's been in my corner. She's backed me. She's, it's a challenging industry, I'll be straight up, but she's always had the belief in me. So, she's a lovely woman, great, ex-international athlete herself, but in terms of her knowledge and her guidance, it's been incredible. So yeah, if you're watching, Jo, thank you. Yeah, I was going to say. Come across, you never know. Yeah. But yeah, I would say she was probably really one of the most influential people in terms of my career, in terms of steering me and giving me great advice, and kicking me up the backside when I've needed it, when maybe I've had a challenge, maybe I've had a knock, maybe I've had a setback or a rejection or whatever. She's been great at just being in my corner. So I'd probably say good old Jo Butt.
Wow, it's great to have those cheerleaders, those mentors that your support system, that hype you up. It's good to have that with you.
Absolutely. I need, everyone needs someone in their corner, and I've been so lucky in that the people that have seen what I bring, they're helping me bring that out more and more, and everyone needs someone in their corner, which is why I became a practitioner, because I knew that if I couldn't play tennis on the tour, I wanted to be that person in someone's corner, to be like, I've got you, like whatever happens, win or lose, I've got your back. And yeah, it brings me a lot of joy just to be able to be that person with the pom-poms in the corner, you know, for whoever I'm working with, just to know that I've got their back regardless, and I'm always going to be on their team. So yeah, it's so important.
That's good. Yeah. So your early aspirations was always to be, you could always see yourself within it, sports psychology industry, or has it changed? Your aspirations have changed over time?
Literally, to be honest with you, I'm one of those that's quite relentless when it comes to, I'm a really passionate person. I've had it in my mind for a really long time, but I was kind of putting it off because I thought I needed a PhD initially to be able to be a practitioner. But when I found out that I didn't need to, I thought, oh, okay, that opens the door. I just go and do my master's, get that done, and then I can go and get my hands dirty and be in the field. So yeah, it was important for me. And for anyone aspiring, you know, psychs or practitioners out there, you can still get paid when you're training too. So that was something that I think some people might have been put off by, thinking that you have to be fully accredited before you can actually earn money, which is not true. So when I found that out also, I thought, oh yes, okay, right, I want to go and do this thing. And for me, other than being a professional athlete and this, it's just been something that I've always come back to. So I can't say there's been many other things, to be honest with you. Maybe work for charity, but I kind of did that in my lead up. But other than that, nothing's really swayed me, to be fair.
I love that. You followed your passion. You've just been, it's a passion. You've always just gone forward into your passions, really.
Yeah.
Second nature. You're not even thinking about it. It's more like, it's not work. You turn up every day. It's like, this is not work to me. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm meant to be doing pretty much my whole life.
Yeah, I try, you know, it's one of those, I'm just not very good at following the mold and, you know, doing like a normal 9 to 5 to get paid. I can't, it's just not in my being. I have to do something. Fair play to the people that have found something that they love doing that is 9 to 5, but sports psychology is just not like that. Like it's not really like that. You work weekends, you work holidays, whatever. It's just the nature of sport. But yeah, I'm just one of those people. I to feel alive, I need to do something that I'm really passionate about and I care about, that's helping people. So yeah, fair play to those that can do something that they hate, but you know, and go just get on with it. I'm just not one of those. So I've got to be excited. I've got to be into it. So
do what works for you. For sure. I know you touched briefly on you said early challenges making it in the industry, but what are some, go into a bit more detail about some of the challenges you face as a young sports psychologist?
Yeah, it's a really, really good point. Well, I'll tell you straight up, the first challenge is that before Basie's created this beautiful new route for people, I was part of an old cohort, which meant that actually we can't call ourselves sports psychologists. I'm a performance psychologist, right? But now they've made this great new route where you either go down the BPS or the Basie's route, and you can, or you do a professional doctorate. And it's like a level playing field now, which is great. So for me, the challenge has always been, you know, that being a potential barrier. Now I'm going back to actually retrain and get the golden badge of honor. But that was definitely an early challenge for me. But the main ones, I would say, in sports psychology specifically, opportunities, especially when I started, definitely not as out there as they are now. Thankfully, it's starting to build in a nice direction, and there are a lot more opportunities appearing on the UK sports, the football club websites. You know, you're starting to see that people are starting to value the discipline a lot more, which is amazing for all of the new people coming through, and the people like me that are like, yes, great, this is nice to see a difference. But also sports psychology is quite far down the pecking order when it comes to sports science support. So usually a club or an organization will have a physio, S&C, maybe performance analyst. The psych's probably at the bottom of the list, to be honest with you, or nearer the bottom, depending on who you work for. I don't want to speak for everyone, obviously, but there is a lack of funding. There's a lack of opportunity for people to go in and really make a difference from the mental side of the game, because the money's not there. And on top of that, if the money is there, there's a pot of money, but it means that you can't get your hands dirty and be in the environment day in, day out, really getting to the nuts and bolts of what's going on, because there isn't enough money to get you in there to have you there for the full time. So it's, yeah, for me, it's literally been opportunities, lack of funding. And as a result, I've not once got a job from applying online and doing a job application. Every single role I've ever had has been just from networking and getting to know people. Simple as that, which, you know, I want to encourage people. There is more than one way to become a sports psychologist or be in the field, performance psychologist, whatever it is. There's not one way. You can make it work for you. And I'm definitely proof of that, because I've been rejected hundreds of times from job opportunities, but as a result, some beautiful things have been born. So yeah, it's just lack of funding, lack of provision, lack of opportunity to really get in there, and it's you're doing practice from afar. And I still experience these issues now, to be honest with you, when I'm practicing. But we're definitely going in a good direction as a discipline. So yeah, I'm excited for the future, for all of the new sites coming out there, and all the ones that are in the field now, because it's a great place to be, but it can be really tough.
Yeah.
So sorry, Ozzy. So in that case, would you say that for a while, psychology was kind of undervalued within sports? It wasn't really. Is that what we're trying to kind of?
I mean, yeah, I can't speak for everybody. Definitely can't say that, but I think there's a general consensus that we're not. It really depends on who you're working for. You know, there might be a head coach somewhere that really values psychology, and the first person they want in, you know, if they're starting a job, is they might say, right, let's employ a sports psych, you know, it full time, not 1 day a week or 1 day a month to come in and do a workshop or whatever. But just from what I've experienced, yeah, it's not as valued as maybe the other physical side of things, the you know, physios, the S&Cs going in, performance analysis. It's just how it's been in my experience. I can't speak for everyone, obviously, but like I say, I have been really lucky in the places that I have worked. The kind of drive to have it on the program has been there, and if it hasn't been there, I've really expressed, I think this is missing, like, let me introduce this for you and look at the difference it's going to make. So yeah, there's definitely, I would say we have been undervalued as a discipline in the past, but from the more recent things coming out in the media, from the athletes talking about mental health, and, you know, that's helped bolster our discipline, I think. Yeah, so we're definitely going in a good direction. But yeah, I would say potentially we have been undervalued, but that's just my experience. I don't know, who knows.
Yeah, just more visibility. Now you see more visibility for the profession as a whole, isn't it, within the media around, which is good, and it's good to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what, a really nice example is, I spoke to Iga Swiatek's sports psychologist. So she's number one. She wasn't number one actually at the time, but she's very visible. She is part of Iga's team. She's literally just won the US Open. You know, she travels with her. She's in the stands with her. She's on court with her, and she's very visible. And it's been great that Iga has wanted her to travel with her and give her the exposure, because I think that's been really beneficial in helping us, especially on the tennis tour as well. It's nice to see the visibility and the commentators saying, oh, well, this particular player is working with a sports psychologist, and it's the exposure that we love hearing, because it's like, yes, we are important. Yes, this is an important part of the game, or whatever sport you're in. So yeah, I'm excited for the future. But it's definitely, yeah, I think the past 5 years or so, it's got a lot better in terms of the exposure, athletes speaking up about mental health, and you know, they need to be better protected. And yeah, you know, hats off to the athletes, because they're the ones that have helped really catapult it. So yeah.
Definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. Definitely. 100%.
Definitely testament to you guys as well as sports psychologists that helps the athletes. I guess it's an alignment, two-way street, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the thing is, you know, if you can prove yourself as a practitioner, you know, you're adding value, then it's great. because they can see the difference. They employ you or whatever because they want to improve performance ultimately. Unless you're looking at an athlete that wants to do a mixture of well-being and performance, everyone's different. But if you're helping them, well, if they are getting results and you are working together, then they're going to advocate for you and say, this is what's helping me. And yeah, absolutely, they've done us a massive favor. It's just tough when it comes to psychology because obviously it's not as tangible as something like quad strength, you know, going to the gym. And if you know you're working with an S&C and they're helping you with your quad strength, you're going to be able to say to that S&C, great job, or the nutritionist or whatever, like, great job, fitter, stronger. But when it comes to the mind, it's so much more difficult to measure where that effectiveness has come from. But yeah, definitely massive hats off and respect and thanks to the athletes. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a job. So
for sure. Yeah, I know you said you wanted to be a tennis player before, and I can kind of relate to you, and not relate, but that was one of my favorite sports growing up, tennis. So I'll definitely share that. I can see where you're coming from with that, with the tennis. I mean, it's one sport that kind of people look at. It might be hard to play, as in you need to get equipment. It's expensive to get equipment.
Yeah.
The tennis courts, availability, maybe go to a tennis camp. It's not a sport you kind of like readily available within the school.
Agreed.
Yeah. So it's like that's a very niche sport. I thought it's a very niche sport in a way compared to football.
You're absolutely right. Financially, very difficult to maintain. If you want to play at a high level, you need to have financial backing from somewhere, whether it be your family, whether it be the governing body, maybe, whether it be, I don't know, your own finances from somewhere else. But to be able to sustain that and be able to play around the world, to be able to get points, it's a lot, you know. And if you're turning up, I've worked with players before where if you're turning up and you've got a tournament out in Turkey, for example, you've got to pay for that hotel room, you've got to pay for the flight, you've got to pay for your food. You go there, you lose first round, and that's $3,000 down the drain, you know. Down the drain, that's how it feels for them. And then there's a lot of external pressure because wherever that money's coming from, then it's, well, you've gone and lost first round, that's already $3,000 gone. You know, it's I agree with you. And in terms of accessibility, I think the LTA are working hard, I know, in this country to really drive mass participation and accessibility for all people, not just the ones that have got a bit of dollar to be able to play. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not from a very affluent financial background. You know, my family were not rich at all, and the further I got, the more I could see it being a struggle for us. You know, I've seen parents remortgage their homes so that they can support their child to go and play around the world. And it's not as accessible as something like football, which I think is great because, or a sport like athletics, for example, which is where I worked at that charity, you know, less equipment, more affordable, and obviously you get to socialize with a lot of other people as well in the footballing industry. And there are definitely some really nice things happening as a result of the Euro success, and obviously the men's side of the game, everything that happened as well with the Euros. You know, the amount of money being pumped into football is great to get more people playing and just out and fit and active. So definitely.
Well, Tom, you will get into the Euros later a bit more about how that's impacted, you know, everyone. But what would you say is your favorite? Because you've worked in many different sports. What would you say is your favorite sport to work in within?
Good question. Do you know what? I mean, instinctively, because I played tennis growing up and I played football, those are the two I gravitate towards because I like the individuality of tennis, but also I love the team aspect of football. But having said that, and I've caught myself off guard here, working in the more obscure sports, I've really enjoyed because I'm learning, you know, baton twirling, for example. I knew nothing. I had to Google what baton twirling was, and I was very upfront with my client and said, look, I have not worked with anyone in baton twirling before. However, you know, you're going to need to teach me along the way. You're going to have to tell me, you know, she was teaching me the sport specific language, and it fascinates me working in something that I know literally nothing about And I think that's what helps people become better practitioners, because for me, tennis is, you know, the sport specific language. I get it. I've stood on a tennis court. I understand what it feels like to feel pressure, second serve. You might lose the game, you might lose the match, yada, yada, all of that stuff. But for the new sports like that, for me, I'm like, yeah, that it's just like want to get my hands dirty. I like the challenge, you know. So yeah, for me, genuinely, I've really enjoyed it, and I wasn't expecting to feel such an affinity to trying new things. But you know, if baton twirling wasn't a thing, tennis would probably be the one, and football very, very closely behind, just because I've been there, I've done it, I understand exactly what it's like.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, the psychology aspect behind being an athlete is pretty similar, but you have to make it sport specific to fit the situation. So the athletes that I've worked with across the whole range of sports, they will come up with similar things that they want to work on, whether that be confidence, whether that be, you know, they're getting distracted, whether that be they're coming back from an injury, or whether that be they've lost motivation. You know, the kind of strategies and things we can work on are similar, but we make it fit exactly to their situation. So it's yeah, I love the challenge. So yeah.
Yeah. Just to ask, I know, I mean, you haven't worked with every athlete, but so I'm assuming so. Have you worked with, are there scenarios where you see an athlete that you haven't worked with yet, or or athlete of the past, and is there a situation where in your mind you feel like there's a way you can get to that person, or there's a way that you would have dealt with that person? So for instance, you mentioned tennis, for instance, Steffi Graf, can't remember the other lady's name, the one that got stabbed in the arm.
Monica Seles.
Yeah, Monica Seles. Yeah. So how would you, if you were a psychologist at that time, how would you approach her, being, you know, that it practically pretty much ended her career after that incident? How would you kind of approach that situation? That's
a really good question. I've never been asked that before. Well, the thing is, first and foremost, obviously, physically, you know, she would need to get checked out and really understand the severity of the injury.
Yeah.
Just so that you could really kind of grasp what has happened. Is it a career-ending injury? How long is the injury going to last for? And I did this a lot with the players on the PFA injury rehab program. You know, some of them were coming in with ACLs, which is like 9 months to over a year recovery. Some of them were having little hamstring niggles and things like that. So for someone like Monica, first thing, obviously physically checking, seeing what the deal was, and whether it is career ending and that sort of thing. And another thing that would definitely, well, I would imagine, maybe not definitely, but there would need to be some sort of clinical referral, like clinical psychologist coming in, or like a counseling psychologist or a counselor to deal with something that traumatic. That's not in the remit of a sport or a performance psychologist. Like we're like, right, on court, this is what you do, like if you lose concentration, or you know what I mean. But if it's something really deep and really deep rooted, something like that, they would need an external specialist to come in. But what I might do alongside that person would be, okay, if it wasn't career ending and she was coming back to play, okay, you know, what would you be doing to help her get back, whether that be confidence, whether that be her focus, whether that be motivation to get through it. You've just reminded me, actually, Monica Seles got stabbed in the back, like I think in the 90s. You might be thinking of
Kvitova.
Petra Kvitova. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Sorry, my bad. I was going way back. But yeah, no, exactly that. And yeah, it's one of those things that a lot of the time, if you have access to somebody, you will work in collaboration with an external clinical person to help from like a well-being perspective and a mental health perspective. and combining that with the performance. So how can you get them back on court or wherever they're going? So yeah, that's definitely how I would work in tandem with a situation like that. But she's just done so incredibly to come back, and you know, the results she's had since, it's been really emotional for people to watch, because it's just unbelievable that it happened in the first place. But you know, it's great to see her back on court and thriving, and not just kind of surviving. She's been playing great tennis, so you know, without feeling in parts of her hand, and you know, in her playing hand. She's a lefty, and in her playing hand, you know, so yeah, massive respect. So yeah, that's probably how I'd approach it.
Apologies on my behalf. I actually I was going to mention Monica Seles as well, but I kind of mistook the injury about where the stabbing wound was, so that's my fault.
No, I you know,
it's a long time. It's a long time.
Anyway, most similar situations, I would deal with them similarly. Obviously, depending on what they then needed to get back on court, then but yeah, still a very great question.
Yeah, testament to tennis players as well, because they're traveling everywhere, so worldwide with all this. Plus what they receive, I also feel like they should get paid more, tennis players.
They're doing all right, you know. They're doing all right.
Make a lot of money.
Depending on where they are. The thing is, yes, the top players. If you're able to play in a Grand Slam, yes, you are going to make more money. You know, if you're getting through, you're seeded. You know, I think first round of Wimbledon, they have publicly said it's around £50,000 for a first round loss at Wimbledon. So if you've got through qualifying, you know, you're doing well, and the Grand Slams are the ones that pay the best. But lower down, you know, the ITF events that aren't on the WTA and ATP tour, they're not paid well. It's a big jump, which is why the financial aspect is quite big in tennis. But for them also, you know, the travel, they get to travel the world, which is incredible. However, it's incredibly punishing, you know, hotel room to hotel room, plane to plane. You know, a lot of players will need to actually fund their coaches, their team. You know, it's not just they jump on a plane and go. It's the organization around that. If there's a delay, if their racket bag isn't with them, or if their luggage gets lost and they have nothing to play with. You know, I've seen it a lot on the tour, just from the past when I've done the player services roles as well. You know, baggage being lost, getting place to place, delays. It's really quite stressful, and there are a lot of other stressors in the tennis world that people won't really probably be aware of behind the scenes, that is a lot tougher than it might seem. You know, the glitz and glam in front of the cameras, but behind the scenes, you know, they work. I do really respect them. The amount of work, travel, you know, it's a lot. So yeah, massive respect and hats off to them, because there are a lot more stresses, and you've got sponsorship stress, you've got potentially financial stress if your family are paying for you to go and travel. You've got, you know, so many other things. Your coach will take a portion of your winnings, or however you've got it set up with them. If you travel with a physio, you'll need to pay them. If you have a psych, you'll need to pay. You know, there's so many other costs involved. So yeah, I mean, it's different world behind the scenes, but I loved it when I was there, and in that environment. I just felt at home. So
for sure, definitely. I don't know if you've seen the Serena Venus documentary.
Yes,
saw that a month ago now. I think it's inspirational. When you see things like that, you're just in awe. You're taken back.
Yeah, what they've done for the sport is, I don't have a word for it. Like, phenomenal doesn't cover what they've done, you know, but again, just huge respect. And there's so much, you know, the fact that Serena's now retired, just what she's done for the sport, and obviously what Venus has done too, is it's immense. And yeah, people don't realize how much goes into it behind the scenes, that all of the stuff they need to deal with alongside everything else. And you know, being in the public eye, that's an extra thing that they have to deal with, as to all the other pros. So it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, credit also to my favorite tennis player growing up was Roger Federer.
Federer. Legends.
He's had an incredible career. I was actually quite sad to hear about his retirement, you know. I thought, but you know what? maybe it's time. He was happy. He'd done his time.
She's got children, I think 4 kids, so it's
both twins.
He's done a lot. He hasn't got anything to prove in the game.
Exactly. And a player will know when they're happy, they've completed it. That's it, done. Like they've smashed their aspirations and their goals. What else was there that he, it's time to spend time with his family and just
give back now. Give back. Yeah, give back now. To maybe do an academy, give back to the younger generation. That's really it now.
Yeah, and I think he's a great guy. He's done a lot for tennis, just in terms of humility, and he's a really generous guy, and just the way he carries himself, what the commentators say, it's true. And he's done so much for the sport, even off court. Like, people may not realize how much the players actually do give back to the local communities, and they fund things, and they so much, but it'll be really nice to see what he does next. I'm curious to see what the next step is for him.
You've seen him in person? Sorry, you've seen him in person?
Yeah, well, when I've worked on the tour, the events, some of them are mixed events, they're men's and women's events. Wimbledon, I've seen them. They're people like you and me, absolutely. But I've honestly been blessed to have worked in some of the places that I have, and I'm always grateful for that. And it's just given me such great experience. And I pinch myself sometimes and go, well, that was a pretty damn good day at work, like. My life is not normal. I've been very, very lucky.
Oh, that's good. I was saying, I miss the guy. I miss seeing him at Wimbledon, because that was his home. That's like his that's like his second home. I miss seeing the guy at Wimbledon.
Yeah, I think when they did the centenary celebrations, just his presence there, you could just feel it, and you can just tell he's loved by everyone. He's a great guy, and absolutely hats off. So
and I realized his wife was a tennis player as well. She was.
She was.
She was a top tennis player as well. She was on the pro tour. She did really, really well for herself as well.
But she retired early, maybe because of injury or something like that.
Injury.
She did. She retired obviously a lot more before him. I remember her being a player when I was growing up. So I think she thought, right, I've had enough, and then they started to have some kids and stuff. So
she probably inspired him in a way.
Maybe. I'm sure. She's part of the camp, so he's got to be playing tennis for some reason. He's going to have a why like everybody else, and I'm sure she's part of it, and his family are part of it too. So
Okay, Chantal, I've got a question for you. It might be a tricky one.
Go for it. I love tricky questions.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. You've worked in different sports, of a diversity of sports. Have you got one favorite moment? I'm sure you've had many favorite moments that you just could describe there. But have you got one single favorite moment, like a wow moment? You're like, wow, I'm really in the industry that I'm meant to be in this industry, the sports psychology industry.
Yeah. Do you know what? That is a tough question, because I'll answer it in 2 ways. Obviously, for me, playing tennis growing up, then being offered a job at the WTA, I was euphoric. I had my interview out in China and then got given the role. And I remember being on the plane, just like crying, with just like, I've done it, like, from being that 16-year-old that was like, one day I'm going to work with those players, and having that hunger to do it, to then be, sat at the Australian Open or wherever in my office, being like, yes, even sat in having lunch, sat around the people that I would be sat around, and you just walk past and you'd be like, hey, you're right. And it's such a strange sensation. And then you fly home, and then you turn on the TV, and they're there, and they're playing, and they've got thousands of people watching, and I'm like, oh, I saw them eating their jacket potato at lunchtime. You know, like yes, so just getting that role for me was huge because it meant so much to me. I had such a drive behind why I wanted to be on the tour and support those women on the tour. So that was huge. But I think for me, in terms of in general, the feeling I get when the thing is, a lot of the time you will get an athlete that comes to you when there's a specific issue and they're struggling with something, you know, something is hurting them and something's really niggling them, and you know what they've been through. So when you watch them succeed, or they win a really tough match, or they win a championship, or they get an international vest or something that they've really, one of their goals they've been really working towards, it's so heartwarming because you know the struggles they've been through, you know the knockbacks, you know the, you know, they've had to get up and go again multiple times. So when they are achieving that thing, that is why I do what I do, because to know that they have got to where they've got to is just such a beautiful feeling. And yeah, I mean, a really nice example is, and I won't say the sport, but a particular athlete I was working with, incredibly anxious, just out of nowhere. She couldn't perform. She just literally would go out to do her thing, and she was just, I don't understand what's happened to me. You know, her parent was in contact with me like, I've tried everything. I have tried hypnosis, I've tried this, I've tried that, I can't do this. You know, a few months later she goes on to win like a European championship in front of you know, someone that really demoralized her, and just the feeling of her success just made me feel so happy for her, because she'd really done the work behind the scenes and done it for herself. I can tell her all of the strategies in the world to do, but she is the only one that can go out there and actually practice it and actually do it under pressure in front of however many people. You know, the pressure's on, it's a European championship or world championship or whatever it is, and to be able to produce something that she's wanted to produce and has been petrified to do. I just, yeah, that's why I do what I do. So it's moments like that that I just love. And I get them all the time. You know, I get parents calling me saying, my kid wants to give up, you know, but they're really talented. They work really, really hard. And the parents are heartbroken, and they're saying, please help me. I just want my kid to be happier. I don't want him to be crying on the pitch, or I really want him to keep going because I think he loves it, but he's petrified. And just to get the kids to turn around being like, yeah, I want to carry on. I actually am starting to enjoy what I'm doing. And the parents saying, thank you so much. And I'm like, well, your child did the work, you know, it wasn't me that did the work. Yes, I might have facilitated a process, but just helping athletes and families as a knock-on result be happier. I love it. Like, literally can't beat that feeling. So yeah, I care a lot. So it's big for me. So even though the WTA was, you know, one of my best achievements, things like that and like next level for me, if that makes sense.
Wow, yeah, makes sense, definitely. Wow, it's amazing. What was the name of the player that won the European Championships?
Confidentiality wise,
okay.
I'm not allowed to say.
That sounds amazing.
Fair enough.
But but no, it's yeah. I mean, I've been blessed to work with some really cool people. I mean, every single client I'm grateful for, whether that be a 7-year-old, whether that be a world championship, whatever, you know, or a professional footballer or a professional tennis player, or whoever. But yeah, part of my job is to keep it stum when it comes to unless they say to me, yes, you may share this information with the world, but I haven't actually asked the athlete whether they would be okay with it, so I'm not gonna divulge any information.
Fair enough.
Nice.
If I could ask, has there been a scenario where clearly it's very, very clear that this athlete should retire? Like they're having so many injuries, or they've taken so much damage. Have you ever been in that scenario where you kind of had to intervene and kind of give them that talk of letting it go, moving on?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Personally, I haven't been dealt that card yet. I might be. But I think when it comes to a decision like that, it would be a very joint one, with it's important to have the athlete at the core leading it, saying, okay, I think I've done my time now. I think I need to walk away. Yeah. And I think when I was at the PFA doing the injury rehab program, working with the physios and the physical performance coaches and things, football it can be quite savage when players are let go, when they're released. And yeah, there were definitely situations when there were some really tricky injuries, long-term injuries that had happened where players were in a tight spot where they'd been released from a club, and it's like, well, what's my next move? What do I do? So for me, in situations like that, it would, I would be there to listen and be like, right, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? Is it time? How do you feel about letting it go? Is it time? Is it not? And helping them kind of discover other options. If it is a career transition out of sport in terms of being an athlete, what options do they have? Can they go into punditry? Do they have another skill that's nothing to do with sport? Maybe they're really into business, or maybe they want to become an entrepreneur in something else. Maybe they love coaching. Maybe it could be anything, but helping them really kind of process, okay, what are my options, and supporting them along the way. That's how I would deal with it. But I haven't actually been presented with that like specific scenario myself as a practitioner, but I do know other practitioners absolutely have, especially the ones that are working, at Olympic level, and it's the ones that have been through quite a few Olympic cycles. It's okay, right, it might be time to stop. What's next? And helping the athlete transitions as smoothly as possible out of the sport, but in the most healthy way, because it's definitely a time where I think athletes would be very vulnerable when you're used to training and that identity around being an athlete, and then suddenly you're out of the public eye, or you finished and your sense of purpose has diminished, and you think, well, that's who I was. I was the athlete. Now who am I? I'm, and it can really be quite heavy for people making that transition. So that's how I would deal with it. But so far, I haven't come across that.
Okay, so it's interesting. That's interesting. Sorry to cut you over, Rex.
It's fine.
I was going to say, do you use you're saying who am I? Do you use words of affirmation? Is that one of the goal says, is that part of the psychology as well?
Some people think words of affirmation. Yeah, self-talk is a big part of what I do in terms of understanding what's currently happening for an athlete in their mind. What are they telling themselves? Is that having an impact on the way they're feeling? Is it having an impact on the way they're then behaving? So some people like words of affirmation. Some people like having a mantra. Some people like just going through, right, when I'm thinking and feeling like this is what's going to nudge me in a more helpful direction, and talking through those options with them and what works best for them. So self-talk's a massive part of what I do. And it's not even just for athletes, it's just people and life, isn't it? The way you talk to yourself does have an impact on how you are and your behaviors and things. And we have to try and keep ourselves on the straight and narrow when we've got a very negative bias going on in our own minds sometimes. So the words of affirmation can be helpful for some people, for sure.
Right.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. You're gonna ask questions, Rex?
Are there any sports that you wish that you seek, that you intend to kind of operate in terms of,
Ooh, that's a good question. What sports would I like to work in? Obviously, I mean, I'm again blessed to work with a range of athletes from different sports, so I have quite a few bases covered, but I would like to do more work in tennis just because it's natural to me. I would like to. Oh, that's a good question. I'm a big kind of athletics fan as well. I really love watching the athletics. I would say some more work in athletics would be it would be fun, definitely. I'm drawn to the sports that require kind of athletics. Just when I work for the charity, you can the level of training an athlete puts in is insane, and they're throwing up on the side of the track, and you know, the level of dedication that must need to go in to shave off like hundredths of a second, or, you know, 1 centimeter or whatever it is, like the margins are so small. I think I'd like to explore that a little bit more, you know, if given the opportunity. But yeah, for me, like tennis is the main one. I'm lucky to work in football. So yeah, just continue to kind of grow my consultancy in those sports. But I'll take any, you know, like I say, baton twirling, great. Like the more kind of random, the better sometimes. So I like being on my toes, you know.
Sure. Diversity is good. It's key to life, for sure.
What about boxing and MMA, like combat sports athletes?
Yeah,
would you
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I've been in talks with somebody that potentially wants to do some MMA stuff, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely, I'm game. And again, I think that's a really interesting sport, because there's another level of controlled aggression that is needed there, where I spend a lot of time trying to calm people down and like getting them to, you know, channel that maybe anger or energy into a useful behavior. Whereas in something like MMA, it's obviously very tactical. There are so many moving parts involved. I think obviously controlled aggression is part of it. Well, it's not even, I don't even want to call it controlled aggression, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's just it's a different type of, I'd like to actually explore the psychology behind that and understand that better, because I think those people, you know, if you're getting, or boxing, you know, you're getting punched right in the face and you are seeing red in that moment, how do you control yourself when your emotions are just all over the place? You know, it's different being on a tennis court and you miss a backhand, you know, but when you're literally getting punched in the face, or someone's done something illegal and it has really angered you, I can imagine the psychology behind that is incredibly intense. So I'd love to unpick that a bit more. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a science. There's a lot of science involved in boxing, as you said. It seems like that element is key. There must be a lot of sports psychology that goes into it. The boxing.
Yeah, very tactical. You've got to be quick, you know, like motor control and skills, but also, emotional control. Getting into, you know, there will be days where you don't really fancy it. You don't want to be fighting that day. Maybe you're feeling really lethargic. Maybe you're feeling just flat. Being able to get yourself ready to get into the ring, you know, on a day like that, and activate or calm yourself down or whatever, so you're not just swinging and throwing punches out of nervousness. You know, it's a really intense environment. So
I think that's where they go. That's where the camps help. Those 3-month camps they go on, and isn't it? That's also important. The pre-season or the bit before. Yeah.
Training is genuinely so key. That is what gives athletes confidence, you know, the preparation, going into it knowing I have unturned every single stone here. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know if this happens, this is the plan. The what if planning, that, you know I've put the reps in. I know I'm fit. I know I'm strong. I know I've done the mental work, and actually training and putting the psychological strategies into a session so they can practice it there is really important, so that they're not just using it in competition. That's where we build them up. You know, that's where we want them to be practicing these things, so that when it comes to competition, it's automatic. They're like, if this happens, this is the plan. I've got plan A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever. And they can just do their thing and flow, which is what, you know, when you see their best performances, they're not thinking about anything. They're just automatic, flowing. You know, that's when you see like beautiful sport.
That's it. And it's the same with all sports. A beautiful game, like football, for example, when they follow something and it's just like you just don't play your game. There's no nerves. It's just there's some rhythm to the game. It's like you've done your preparation, you just turn up and put that into action, execution, and that's it.
It's when you see players flowing, they're like being creative. They're pulling off the back heels, you know, they're pulling off the Cruyff terms, they're pulling off the little tricks, they're playing their game. You know, Ronaldo is such a lovely example when he's in flow, and he's just you know, it's laughable, some of the stuff that he does, and you're just like, he's having fun on the pitch, and he's just having a great time, you know, and that's how he's producing his best football.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's great to, when you see them like that, that's where you see some of the most beautiful sporting moments.
Yeah. That brings me to my next question. You know, about your inspirations. Who are you inspired by? Who do you see maybe in the celebrity world or other sports psychologists or in industries, or maybe even from a personal viewpoint? Who's your inspirations? Who do you get inspired?
Yeah, good question. I mean, as I mentioned, athletes in general, because I was an athlete growing up myself. I understand, I have respect for the pressures they face, how hard they need to push their body, their mind, everything. You know, they need to make a lot of sacrifice if they want to be at the top. So just athletes in general, I have massive respect for, and they've inspired me. As a kid, like I say, Steffi Graf was kind of a big one for me. Arantxa Sanchez Vicario was another one. You know, she played with flair. She was really, she had great personality on and off court, and you could just sense that she was really, I don't know, I just really kind of resonated with her. But kind of, yeah, I mean, inspiration wise, it's tough. Like I say, I come back to Connie Henry, who I worked for, who was the triple jumper that I used to work for, because her level of just resiliency, tenacity, she was like a bulldog when it comes to, I'm going to help these kids and nothing is going to get in my way. And I think just her values of being literally the humility, the warmth, the kindness, the compassion that came off her, it really made me feel like, okay, you know what, I you know, I could soak that up all day, and that is the type of practitioner I really want to be in the future. And my own parents, to be honest with you, you know, got to mention the parents, I guess, you know, that they have been inspirational to me purely because they've allowed me the freedom to explore this avenue. You know, it's a challenging industry, it's not easy to get into, and you know, they've been there for me. They've just their own kind of just unconditional love, compassion, warmth, kindness, support. You know, that energy is literally what makes me who I am and what I want to bring to the world, whether it be sports psychology or just life, you know. And like, kindness is so important to me. So the people on my journey that have really shown that have really inspired me to keep going, because they can see my light, I see their light, and I'm like, yes, we need more of this in the world. Like, no BS, you know, none of the corporate politics and stuff. All I want to do is help people and do the right thing, you know, and those people have really helped me stay accountable to that and continue. Because I'll be real with you, sports psychology, it can be a tough gig sometimes. And, you know, it's tempting to be like, oh, I just want to go and do something else that isn't so stressful sometimes, you know, because it can be heavy. You're dealing with lots of people's feelings and you care, and, you know, but yeah, they definitely kept me going. So those would be my personal inspirations, I would say.
Oh, I love that. What about in the, you've already said professionals. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah. And starts from the household, I guess the early beginnings, and then from there it just keeps on. It changes over time, your inspirations as you
yeah, absolutely. And you know what, another guy that actually popped into my mind when I was doing the player services work in tennis, his name was Paul Hutchins. Absolute legend, like complete legend. He used to be the Davis Cup captain, used to play tennis professionally himself. His son his son has retired now, actually, but his son was a tennis player on the tour as well. And working with him, just such a kind human, like always wanted to help people, young people. Like, he's like, how can I give you work experience? How can I help you be better? How can I connect you with someone that I know? You know, he was absolutely instrumental in helping me on my journey, for sure. And I will be always forever grateful to that man, because he had belief in me. He, you know, and he was big gun, you know, proper big gun, but he always had time for anybody that wanted to talk to him. And those are the type of people that I just admire so much. And, you know, if only there were more Paul Hutchins in the world.
That's good. If you're watching for, then
well, he's crossed over to the other side. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. But he was just absolute. He will always be an absolute legend to me. So yeah, big respect and big love.
Love that. It's interesting because you know, when you work in such an industry and it consumes your life, it's kind of a that sports psychology seems like a very kind of consuming industry where you're always busy. It's kind of hard to switch off. There's always seems to be a client to work with or a club to work with, something to do. So how do you switch off? Do you find it hard to switch off? And
what a question! Hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Again, for anyone watching, you're right. I think especially when you're running your own business as well. You know, you'll get an email on a Sunday night at 11 o'clock, and you shouldn't be replying to that email at a time. So, you know, like getting discipline can be tough. But for me, switching off it's so important because I do really care about what is going on with these athletes. You know, you do think about it when you're not working with them and you're wondering, I hope they're okay. How did they get on? And, you know, and so for me, switching off, I love sport. I'll watch anything on TV when it comes to a match or whatever. I actually watched Villa play Man City in the WSL a little bit earlier. They won 4-3 in the 80-something minute. It was a really good game. But yeah, I love watching sport on my time out. Olympics, World Championships, whatever it is, you name it, I'm watching it. But simple stuff like literally going for a walk in the sun somewhere, or, you know, having a cheeky holiday somewhere, a nice little getaway, little hot tub, whatever, you know. I used to dance. I really liked break dancing. That was something that was random but a challenge. You know, I'll try new things like that. Gonna try a gospel choir in a few weeks. I just like doing random things with mates, by myself, whatever, just to kind of let my brain rest a bit. And it's actually really important for anyone, not even just psychs, everyone in the world, to have some sort of good work-life balance and be able to switch on and switch off. So yeah, those are my kind of modes. And I work out. I like to exercise a little bit. I love my food. So yeah, going out, tasting new things, new cuisines. Yeah, I'm all over it. So
what about the Colombian cuisine? How's that?
Yes,
what's that like?
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah. I mean, lots of kind of meat and rice dishes. Yeah, lots of flavor. There's nothing bland about Colombian food, I can tell you.
Like Spanish, a bit of tapas. Is it similar to Spanish?
I mean, yeah, there are some kind of tapasy bits, but yeah, I mean, it's great. I just love food in general, wherever it's from. But yeah, you can have the little tapasy bit, but it's more just meals and like stews and like rice dishes and stuff. So yeah, it's beautiful.
And meats as well. Yeah, working with a bit spicy, nice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. My dad's a great cook, so it's nice when
you can have a Colombian food.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you still find time to play tennis now and then?
You know what? It's one of those funny things. I think I might go back to it, actually. I'm thinking about it. I'm on the edge. I might join a tennis club again. A few years ago, I did play in like a weekly squad just to kind of do it for fun. But then the squad finished, so I kind of fell out of touch with it. But I might play again. We'll see. It's improbable, I would say. But, you know, when you've played something seriously and competitively, now I'm really nowhere near what I used to be. It's more kind of frustrating than enjoyable. So, but no, I am having a word with myself. I'm like, yeah, maybe I will join a tennis club soon and pick up my racket again and dust it off. So yeah, probably we'll see.
What's your favorite? What's your favorite surface to play on?
Oh, what a question. I love grass, if I'm honest with you. I love grass. Yeah. The grass. Oh, it's just slick. It's fast.
Yeah.
You've got the bend low. Oh, it's beautiful. But it's not that prevalent in the country, you know what I mean? Like you don't get many opportunities to play on grass, but I think the way I used to play my game suited grass quite well. I actually had a lot of fun on the clay as well, sliding around, you know, little dinky drop shots here and there. I was one of those. I wasn't really ever a kind of just hit from the baseline sort of player. I'd be one of those that would just try and mix it up and be a bit rogue. So
unorthodox,
I'm not one of those kind of hard hitters from the baseline. I would literally be like chucking in a drop shot from time to time, cheeky slice, coming to the net, whatever, a bit rogue. So yeah.
I feel like clay courts are hardest to play on. I feel like it's the hardest court.
It's slow. It's slow, and in terms of balance and movement, that's an art. Just literally, people will spend time just perfecting or trying to perfect hitting a sliding forehand, or a backhand on the run on a clay court. It's like playing on ice, So, and like dodgy bounces, really dud bounces. It might hit a stone and bounce off to the left or the right unexpectedly, and that rallies are really long. So I love it. I love the unpredictability of it.
Yeah, I'm with you on grass though. I think grass is it's just the most smooth to play on.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. It's so different to play. I know they're complete opposites, but again, kind of like unpredictable. The points are pretty fast, but anything can happen. Cheeky drop shot in there, coming to the net, whatever. It's an exciting game. So
when you catch players out when the ball bounces on the grass, it goes.
Or it's just like dead, or it just like skids through, and you've completely missed it, and you look a bit of a fool. I've seen that a million times, and that's happened a million times to me. But I love it.
I always love tennis players' reactions when they miss a shot and things like that.
Well, like scratch their head off. Like, I meant to do that.
With Macro, the one that got me. Macro smashing the racket.
Oh yeah,
you cannot be serious.
Yeah, as you know,
he's a character. Did a lot for the game as well, and still does do a lot for the game. Great personality.
You don't have many of those people. I think there was more personalities then in tennis. Now they're kind of more. They're less animated. I don't know. I feel.
That's an interesting point. I think. I mean, there are definitely some players that stand out for me that you'd be able to say, that's going to be an exciting match to watch. There's going to be some drama or whatever.
Like Kyrgios.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Seems interesting.
He's doing really well.
He's a very good player.
Yeah, I read somewhere recently that since his final at Wimbledon, he's really wanted to step up the professionalism and play a little bit more, and he's really taking it mega seriously. So it will be interesting to see. But he brings so much to the game as well. I know he's really controversial. But he does a lot for like charitable causes and things as well. So he actually is a valuable player in the media. I think he does a lot for the sport and creating noise around it. But fascinating. I don't know whether I guess back then McEnroe was a standout. But it's an interesting question. I don't actually know the answer to that in terms of whether it's less or more these days. I think because I've been on the other side, I've seen the emotion and things from on TV versus behind the scenes, so for me it's difficult to be able to have like an objective view on it, if that makes sense.
So it'd be interesting for me who would step up now, because Federer's retired, Nadal I'm sure will retire in the next couple of years, and then
Djokovic.
Who'll be the next? It's like in football, Messi, Ronaldo going, who's the next one's up? Leading it will be very interesting. I think in the men's game as well, it'll open it up massively when the big three have decided they've had enough. It's already starting to open up quite nicely, actually. And in the women's game's wide open too. I think that's why the sport's really exciting, especially at the moment, because you can see the change, you can see the new generation coming through, and you don't quite know what's going to happen. So and it's not just Federer's going to win it again, or Nadal's going to win it again, or it's going to be a Djokovic Nadal final and one of those are going to win it. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens next. Looking
I
forward
have to say, I have to say in tennis, I get a bit confused when the player hits the serve and then someone's shouting foul, and then like, who is that? Is that the crowd member?
It's a line judge. It's a line judge. So they're saying fault, but it sounds like It sounds like foul, but they're the ones that are sat around the court or stood at the back. They're calling the line, the service line or the tram line, to say whether it's gone wide or whether it's gone long. So yeah, you'll hear them say fault fault. At Wimbledon anyway. It might be different.
Maybe different languages. They might say, because it's an accent they have. It might be in the French Open. They have a French accent or something.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, because I know at the French Open they'll call the score in French and things as well. So might be slightly different. But yeah, it's the line judges, the people that surround just the outside of the court, or the umpire might be calling it from time to time if there's an overall. But it's not randoms out of the crowd if they're being good.
Not like in football. Not like in football. You don't
Exactly. Very different game.
Now, we're talking about football. Let's bring it back to, you were talking about the Euros, the women's Euros. They did very well to win the tournament first and foremost.
Yeah.
But, I think they were the favourites going into the tournament, but still, it's not. And a home tournament, there's a pressure of the home tournament to put the training together and put all the effort into practice and bring it to the game and still come out on top. It's a testament to them, and I'm sure there's sports psychology behind it all as well. There must be.
There absolutely is. Yeah, I know the sports psychologist that's the women's works for the women's team, and just what a phenomenal job. Just not even just from her, just the whole team, the players, the background staff, obviously the manager, the assistant manager, the physios, the doctor, the sports psychologist, everyone that's in that team, the ops people, what a great, I've seen people work at the FA when I worked at St George's Park, and I've met these people, and they're such great people, and they work so hard, and they will unturn every stone and prepare for everything, so I'm so happy for them. Like the players, the amount of pressure they will have felt is I can't even describe what it must have felt like, but a lot. And I'm so happy for them, so well deserved. Everyone in that team that contributed, massive hats off, respect. The whole country was just elated to watch what they produced. It's because they kept their heads screwed on. They followed the plan. They did the nutrition, they did the physical work, they did the psychology behind it to get them there. They followed the tactics, they put the work in, and they thrived under the pressure. So
got their revenge. Got their revenge for
They did.
Definitely. 56 years without a major tournament. So a win. They brought it home. So testament to them.
So happy for them. It's just so good for women's football in general in terms of just exposure. I've seen that actually when I was watching the match earlier, the women, I think Arsenal and Tottenham are playing in a North London derby next weekend, and their 45,000 tickets have been sold, which does not happen in women's football. It just does not happen. So already to see that difference in tickets being sold out, it's just such a lovely thing to be watching. And I know there'll be loads of participation, like funding being pumped into the female game to get more girls playing, and especially after the Euros wins. So buzzing for them.
It'll have a domino effect, as you said. More people and more girls turn up in PE to play football from even from 6-7 years of age until school, and then later on you have that buzz, that bug. The football bug will come with, it'll be within you, and you just become addicted to this game.
Yeah, and you know what? Some girls don't even have access to play football at school. I was lucky, I did, but some of them couldn't. They were doing netball or hockey or athletics or rounders. It was not even an option as one of their options to even play. So in schools definitely, and just in terms of funding, getting the girls out there, in terms of provision for the performance side of the game as well, that will be going up, which is great news for all the practitioners out there as well that work in the field, me included. I've seen personally a change in the amount of funding that's coming through, which is great. I've seen lots of new jobs come out, and it's really good for the sport.
That's good. Were you able to get to any of the games?
Sorry, say that again.
Were you able to get to any of the games?
No, I didn't actually. I watched them all on TV. Quite a few friends got to the final. They got final tickets, and I was obviously very jealous. But watching it on TV, though, I actually really enjoyed it. And the commentary and watching it from that perspective was really great. So
and it's the German. It had to be the German in the final. It's good to beat the German team as well. They were dominating for so long.
They'll be very happy with that.
After that humiliating loss in 2009, 2009.
Exactly. And it was just so nice to see, like Alex Scott talking about that when she was a player in the squad, and watching the new team come through and do it for them on behalf of all of the other players that had come through. Is just so nice to see that it didn't just affect the team that were playing, it was affecting the history of women's football in this country, and all of the players that paved the way to allow women to play professional football. It's affecting them in such a lovely way, and it's just so great. Just so happy for them.
Definitely. Same here. Credit to them, credit to the team. So I mean, it's going to be onwards and upwards. Really, there's going to be, as you say, more participation, more growth within the field now. There's going to be, might even expand the league. The Super League, not to expand the Super League.
Who knows? Absolutely. And I think it's been really good because obviously it's created more exposure. There'll be more funding in the game, and it's just nice. The women are getting the respect that they deserve, the level of football that they're producing. It's not even women's football, it's football. Men's and women's football is the same game, and they're getting the respect they deserve. That they've won the European Championships, like football, that's it. And just you can start to see the women that are working in and around the game. So obviously the manager is a female, like you're seeing more female leaders coming out and showing their colours and showing that they deserve to be respected too. So women working in the field, it's great to see the female sports psych doing a great job, female physio, female manager, just like punditry, all of the pundits that are coming through, and Alex Scott doing really well, obviously Farrell Williams, all of those people, and just like a general respect for the game from a female perspective is really nice to see. So
it's good to see this.
Absolutely. And I mean, obviously being a woman, for me, I'm biased. I'm like, you go women and whatever, but but just general, do you know what I mean? Like exposure and just
visibility as well.
Just people seeing, oh, you know what, actually, fair play, like they're pretty decent. They've just won the European Championships. It's I think it's great for the country just in general. In the world, not even just
exactly. Putting the team on the map. England on the map. That is really good at football worldwide now. It's going to be, people are here are taking note of this.
And not even just England as a team, but just I think there was great visibility around the Euros. In Germany, there'll be there'll be hopefully the participation will increase, the funding will increase in all of the European countries that took part, and when the World Cup comes around, hopefully there'll be even more hype. So it will just be really nice to see crowds, to see all of that happening around the female game. Whereas slowly catching up with the men. I know there's obviously a lot of work still to be done, but slowly getting there, and they're getting the recognition that they deserve.
For sure.
I hope they smash the USA, the women's team. Hope they smash them.
It'll be a good game. It'll be a very good game, I think.
I hope they smash them.
The USA were leading for. They've been the top team for so long.
And you know what? Actually, I've heard that my friend was trying to get tickets, and she was having to stay up to make sure she could get those tickets really late, and they were going quickly. So it's one of those that finally tickets are actually selling. It's not like, I can easily just pop down to Wembley and watch the women's game because the stadium's not going to be packed. Like, people are starting to actually catch on that it can be exciting, and the WSL being on channel BBC One this afternoon on a Sunday, watching that level of football, it's great to see, but you would never have seen that like 5 years ago, you know, not even 2 years ago. I don't think they were showing the WSL on the BBC or ITV, you know. So yeah, big moves.
Very, 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 very much so. Onwards and upwards.
Yeah.
Where for yourself now, that's women's football in this. I'm sure in the next 5 years, women's football will start. We'll see it increasing and developing so much, even more than it has been. What about yourself? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time?
Good question. I mean, because I've been building my consultancy quite nicely, I would definitely like to continue doing that, working with as many random sports as possible, like I've mentioned. But I think something that would be important for me in the next 5 years would be kind of being able to work with more organizations and be more what's the word, kind of embedded within the system, instead of, you know, athletes coming out to me and getting private one-to-one support. It'd be really nice to be able to get in there and get my hands dirty again and be part of the team, instead of sometimes sites work quite a lot in silo by themselves. So yeah, it would be really nice to kind of build that in that sort of direction. But yeah, continue building my consultancy. But to be honest with you, continue to achieve good work-life balance. I'd really like to, you know, just stay nice and settled, be just content, but also potentially supervising some new practitioners coming through. That would be quite nice to just pass on some of the stuff that I've experienced in my career, what's worked, what hasn't worked, the biggest flops and fails that I've experienced, the biggest mistakes I've made that can maybe help them. And yeah, provide an inviting space, because it can be quite, I keep saying it can be a challenging industry. So I want to be one of those people that, you know, I'm open, I'm honest, I'm warm and kind, and, you know, I will answer the questions for the ones that are coming through and just really try and help them on their journey, because I've had people helping me. So yeah, that's probably where the next steps lie, maybe.
Pass on the knowledge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Brings us to my next question. Who would you thank, if there's one person you could thank for where you are today? Who would that be? I know you thank many people throughout, but
I mean, I probably have to go with, as I've mentioned, Joe Butt, my lecturer at uni, because genuinely, you know, I've had so many great people along the way, and I have to give a shout out to my supervisor who helped me through, obviously, becoming accredited and everything too. He was so good with me in terms of getting me up on my feet, helping me through and understand what I was doing. But I think just long term, she's always been in my corner. You know, I've always been able to go to her with questions, however silly they may seem, and she's answered every single one of them, and she's incredibly busy. But even now, I will lean on her and say, oh, I've got this particular thing I'm not quite sure how to deal with. What would you do? Or, you know, have you got any advice for me? And she's so great. She's helped so many of the top practitioners come through. You know, she's in terms of who she's taught and who is really thriving in the field as a practitioner now. A lot of people that I know have come through her being involved in that system. So I'm sure I'm not the only one to say, you know, Joe Butt is a complete legend with helping. And, you know, it's even like I say, just getting your own clients and getting yourself off the ground. She would always be the one to be like, right, how can I help you? How can I, you know, do you want to come and do some stuff with me here? Or let me give you this person's number there. Or do you want to come and talk to my students? Or do you fancy a bit of lecturing? Or, you know, so she's always had my back. And my career would be very different if she wasn't part of it. So I'd have to say she's probably the main influence for me, for sure.
Oh, I love that. She was giving a platform, providing a platform, connecting the dots, or something along the way.
Yeah. Oh, so many. I know so many people that thought, no, that's not for me. You know, it's not for me. It's too hard. It's too long. You know, you have to study for a long time. But she's always been there. And whenever I have a wobble, and I have had many wobbles, let me tell you, you know,
even the sports psychologists have wobbles.
Yeah, we all do. We're human, absolutely. Yeah, we definitely have our wobbles, because it's very pressurized for us too, in terms of, you know, in some organizations, if the athletes aren't performing, your job might be on the line. It's just the nature of it, it's just how it works. It's like, in football, a manager's job is on the line. If they are not performing, they are out, so it can be quite a tough place to sit in, but also just in terms of, it's a lot. Like you're needing to support a lot of people, and emotionally, if you're not able to kind of contain that, it can be quite overwhelming sometimes, especially when you're a human being and you're being told some pretty dark things that are quite upsetting. It can be quite tough. But when you've got people like her in your corner that are like, no, come on, you've got this, you can do this, it just makes it worthwhile. And I'm so grateful to her, because I could have easily sacked it off and gone and worked in something else completely random. But it's tough. It really is. Dealing with psychology, it's so bespoke. Everyone's psychology is different, and every single person that sat in front of me that I've worked with, I haven't done one session. Like, I've not repeated a session ever. Like, it's always been unique. So really getting to understand people and how they operate and how they work and what makes them tick is so I'm so blessed and like honored that people trust me to do that with them, and it's just an amazing journey. But that woman is the one to keep you on the straight and narrow.
That's for her. She's watching. I'm sure she is.
I'll tell her to watch this.
Definitely tell her.
She can hear
it. For sure. She needs to hear this. Was she at Loughborough or Sheffield Hallam?
Sheffield Hallam, she was, and now she's moved on to Liverpool John Moores. Oh,
right. Okay.
She's a woman in demand.
So just, in the sports psychology industry, how is the weighting? Is it like the ratio of men to women working in the industry? Is it 50-50 or is it?
That's a really good question. I don't actually know the answer to that. I think, probably when we're quite a young discipline. And I would say probably more towards the beginning, it might have been a bit more male heavy. I don't know. I'm guessing at this point, but I do know quite a few female practitioners. So I don't know the answer to that. That's a good question. There's definitely a mix, I would say. I don't know whether I just naturally have found the female practitioners just because maybe we're in a similar spot with some sports community, and whatever. Or depending on what sport you're in, it might be very female heavy versus male heavy. I don't know. Well, I know when I worked for the WTA, very female heavy. So the way that I have experienced my career so far, I've come across a lot of female practitioners, but I know there are loads of male practitioners out there too. So I think we might be evening it out. I think, it might. I don't know. I'm going to go and have a look at that and see if there's a way I can find out, because that's really, I'd be interested to see. But there are definitely more females wanting to go into it, which is nice to see. Because I have experienced myself the kind of discrimination, and it's tough as a woman going into, let's say, a sport like football, and I've worked in a very male dominated environment before. I found that personally quite difficult. But it's not to say that, you don't have your place there. Everyone does. And it's a good start. I'm going to go and find that out, because
let me know when you
I'm going to do some digging.
Is there a union by any chance of psychologists together? Is there a union, or is it completely separate individually?
We all kind of we're governed by bodies that regulate the discipline, and in terms of practitioner connection, we're very connected. If you want to be, you don't have to be, you can work in silo by yourself, but actually a lot of us will work together to share good practice, to elevate the discipline in the ways that we want it to be, in terms of the pay, the exposure, the opportunity and the funding for us to actually be as involved as other disciplines. But union wise, I don't actually know the answer to that either. But again, another thing I need to go and look up, because I've just been doing my own thing and just getting stuck in and working with different practitioners. I've thankfully not had to ever kind of consider something along those lines if there's a dispute or anything. But the regulating governing bodies do look after us. So it's another thing I will look into.
There's some investigative journalism there.
Sorry, say that again.
There's some investigative journalism.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that brings us nicely on to my final question to you is, have you got any advice for others? You know, they've got doubts about whether they should work within the industry. They say, oh, like the struggles you had, oh, is it too difficult? It's too this, it's too that, or not enough visibility? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, I really like that question because I think it's really important for people to know, even though I said it's challenging.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't have a career in sports psychology. If you really want it, you can make it happen. You know, there are so many different ways that you can create work for yourself. Some people work full time and they're blessed with full-time role in a football club, or like I was on the WTA tour. Some people work part-time and they'll do part-time 1-2 days a week, and they'll do something else on the side, and that actually works for some people. They like the kind of difference of being able to go in and out. Some people just do consultancy and they kind of put bits together, which is what I'm doing now. And I've worked in all three ways. I've worked full-time, I've worked part-time, and I've done consultancy, and there are so many ways that you can make it work for you. So definitely I would say get connected. So if you're at uni and you're like, do I go to the next stage? Do I train up to actually become a practitioner? Get close with your lecturers, get to know them, because they will be connected to people, whether they can actually get you work or whether they can connect you with someone that may be able to provide you with work. It's important. So, you know, get friendly with your lecturers and your supervisors, because you will probably want to lean on them in the future as well. I've been lucky in that I got close with my supervisor and she wants to help me. So I definitely recommend that. I definitely also recommend, if you are deciding to become a practitioner, do your research, talk to other practitioners down the different routes. So the two main ones are through BPS or BASES. Talk to BASES practitioners, talk to BPS practitioners, see what's going to work for you, because some people, you know, they look at one path and think absolutely not, and look at another and think that's way more suitable for me. So I definitely get them to chat to people. Definitely get, you know, if you're at the studying stage, make sure that you're getting the right degrees. Make sure they are BPS accredited. If you want to go down the BPS route, make sure that it's got the accreditation. Make sure that you've got the right piece of paper to be able to go on to the next stage. So ask those questions. But I'd also say, just in terms of, just know that you can make it work for you. It's a very flexible industry. Get out there, talk to people, network. As I mentioned, I haven't had one job, not one, in the whole of my career by filling out a job application and being accepted, going to interview. Not one. I have created everything myself, just organically, by talking to people, by putting myself up there and saying, hey, I would for the WTA role, literally the dream role for me. I found the head of mental health when I was working in player services. You know, I was like, where is her office? Walked in the office and I was like, I want to work for you in the future. What do I need to do? She's like, go and read these books, go and do this course, get this sort of experience. And I was like, okay, I will do exactly what you say. I went and did it. I got the job, you know. And it's one of those things. If you show you're passionate, you go out of your way to talk to people and just network, some really beautiful things can happen as a result, because people like working with people. If they like you and they think, yeah, they could be a great fit, you know, you're gonna get some really nice contracts. And another key thing for me would be, if you see a role pop up, job application, and you're like, no, I'm not experienced enough, go for it anyway, because you do not know what they might be looking for. And that's definitely happened for me in the past. I've been like, no, I don't have enough experience. I'm not confident enough to go for that. Like, I'm just going to leave it. But actually, when the person gets chosen, you're like, oh, they have the same level of experience as me in terms of, like, we've done the same amount of years or whatever. You're talking yourself out of something before you've even tried it. So yeah. I've been to some situations where I've been in interviews where they've had someone that's had like 10 years experience versus someone that's just done their masters, you know, someone in the middle that's maybe done 2 or 3 years, and all of them have got a fair shot because they want to see who the best fit, like the best person is for that particular group, organization, sport. So definitely, you know, go out and just put yourself out there and don't hold back, because the braver you are in this industry, the more you're going to get out of it, pretty much. So those would be my key things, I would say. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else key. I did make a quick note because I was like, this is one I really, really want to make sure that I get across.
Really good, great advice there.
Yeah, I think, to be fair, I've got on, all of them on there in terms of, just don't give up. If you want this, you can make it happen. And I'm testament to that. I've never been handed anything like through anybody in terms of, oh, here's a full-time gig. I've gone out and I've grafted, and as a result, like by chance, luck, whatever you want to call it, I've been given some really great opportunities. So if you want it, you can make it happen. People are there to support you. Yes, it might feel like a struggle sometimes, but if you follow the advice that you're giving people, in terms of performance psychology, you get knocked down, you get back up, like every single athlete is doing, that you're telling them to do, then you're going to be successful, and you'll get to where you want to be through that sheer determination and motivation and passion. And be yourself, bring your vibe, bring your light, bring your spice, whatever that is. Your particular flair could be just what someone needs. So be confident in that is what I'd say.
Wow, that's amazing. Great, absolutely. Solid advice. Absolutely amazing.
Thank you. I try. It's because I've been
100%.
in the industry and I know how I felt, and to be able to pass that on to others, I want to, I'd love to tell people. I've done workshops in the past where I have literally been like, right, this is a free-for-all. Ask me anything. No question is a silly question. If you want to know how much money I've made from consultancy or whatever, how much to charge, how much this, how much that, the mistakes that I've made, I'm going to bare my soul and tell you all, so that you know what you're coming into, and I can help you be successful. Well, hopefully give you some advice so that you can, go on your way and use whatever you want to. So I'm really passionate about being real in the industry, and helping people. And not seeing them as kind of competition and like, oh no, they're going to steal my work. It's not about that. There's enough for everyone, so help them out. Absolutely.
That's what talking about being real, that's what I realized, how your passion came through when I went to that freelancing event, and we first met, and it's like, that's what I fed on. Then I was like, is that passion for the industry? Is that I said authenticity that was clear to see. Now it's very clear, and it was like, you can only be inspired when you hear words, when you're hearing a person's story and genuine story. That's literally what I felt. I was like, that's a passion. So it was
that's the movie.
Thanks. And it just makes people connect. It just makes people connect. Being real, literally, like that's what I want to bring into my practice all the time. Connecting with the person in front of you, not sitting there with your notepad and like looking like you're psychoanalyzing them and whatever. Connect. You're a human, they're a human. Connect with them, and just be yourself, bring your light, and the right people will find you. So thanks for that. Appreciate it.
Definitely, Chantal. Pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, on 2 Fans on the Pod.
Thank you for your time.
No, thank you so much for having me. I've had a great time, and love the podcast. Keep doing your thing, and I'm excited for you guys to see where it takes you.
Thanks so much.
We'll do our best. Thank you.
Awesome.
You'll be watching your journey very closely over the next years.
Yes, I will. See what happens.
For sure.
Thank you.
Cheers. See you guys. Thanks a lot.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
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 That was absolutely amazing.
100%, man.
Insightful. To get her on the call, to give the insights into an industry that is like, people don't really know the ins and outs of this industry. It's true. Because you just see, let me say something. You just see Manchester City now, they're performing. You see how they're performing to the best. Every team has sports science, sports psychologists. Real Madrid, how did they stay ahead? They got sports psychologists. There's a team behind them. Even Arsenal got a team behind them. It's like, it's
hold on, that did. Somehow they still managed to fail, but that's a whole other story.
No, that's great. That's great. Let's just finish and I'll stop the recording. The outro then,
Yeah.
That was just solid. That was
great interview.
Yeah, great. I knew she would be good because having interviewed her before, and she came through. You know, the good. She comes with this, the advice, the wisdom, the nuggets. She just definitely is very experienced within the industry. You can just tell.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Yeah.
Hey. Yeah, thanks guys for tuning into another episode of Two Fans in a Pod. It's been a pleasure to have you guys as always. We'll see you next time with another episode of Football, where we'll be discussing recent and future Premier League and European games, and also gaining an insight into the European leagues with our foreign football co-host, aka Fabrizio Romano's younger brother, Federico Canetta. Keep on liking, sharing, and subscribing for more engaging sports content. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.